You just love the title of this panel, The Fast and the Formidable. Indeed it is. We're going to be talking a lot about distribution strategies and optimizing the distribution of content on this panel today. And let's be honest, there are so many platforms and so little time. I remember a couple of years ago, I asked a panel of content providers, how they decided which platform they were going to distribute on. Guess what their reply was? All of them. They didn't decide. I think it's probably quite a bit different, and maybe some of our panelists will comment on that this morning. It is getting harder. In the last year, we've seen, I think, at least four FAST platforms launch. TCL Plus, TiVo Plus launched in the US, Philo launched a FAST platform, and DirecTV also launched one. 4 platforms. This is pretty amazing. We'll be talking about a lot about that, but optimizing your presence in all of this is a huge challenge. So that's what we're going to be talking about this morning. I do want to just make one qualification. My thanks to Alan Walt for this definition. Let's make sure I get it right. FAST stands for Free Ad-Supported Television. It includes linear and on-demand. So Tubi's in, Pluto's in. So, okay, so we're just clear. When I'm talking about FAST, that's what we're talking about. Great. Now, I'm actually not going to introduce my panelists. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. And as they do so, I want them to answer an opening question, which is, can you explain how your strategies for audience growth, content monetization, and distribution have changed in 2025? And for platform providers, maybe you could talk about some of the partners that you're working with. So why don't we start with you, Kyle?
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. I'm Kyle Espinosa. I'm the VP of Global Channels Programming and Data Analytics for Fremantle. I run the content programming and scheduling for a linear OTA network and a set of 20 FAST channels across 300 endpoints globally. Also run the data analytics group where we transform raw data into insights to propel our business. And to answer the opening salvo, when I first started at Fremantle in 2023, our initial priority was increasing our reach and distribution footprint for our set of portfolio channels. And fast forward to today, a lot of that focus is now more about refining and making sure we extract as much engagement and keep viewer retention as high as possible to help drive ad revenue and other advertising opportunities at an all-time high. We really can't command advertising premium if there's no one watching, right?
Right. So how have you changed in 2025?
Yeah, we're now trying to utilize data and refine the relationship between our consumers and advertisers with the content and the IP. We have really name brand IP across our portfolio, like America's Got Talent, Baywatch, The Price is Right, Let's Make a Deal. So these are household name brand IPs that people, when they look at an EPG, they completely understand what they're getting. So we really want to understand how can we make sure a viewer comes back regularly so that an advertiser sees value in advertising on our channel as opposed to just throwing content up there on every platform and hope it works.
Very good. Paige, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi. And thanks for everybody sticking around for after the cookies. I'm Paige, so FAST Distribution at Radial Entertainment, which is the newly formed global entertainment company that is housing both the FilmRise and Shout Studios brands. So combined, we're now one of the largest independent providers of content in the marketplace, which is really exciting. Hundreds of FAST channels across all major consumer platforms, some of them maybe your favorites among Forensic Files, Mystery Science Theater 3000, Carol Burnett Show, Johnny Carson, Alf. I'll stop there. To answer your question, I think acquiring major, meaningful, quality content is a really big goal for us, as well as expanding our global footprint and getting into localized feeds more so as well.
So when you say expanding your global footprint, what are you looking to do there? I mean, really make sure your brand is seen in more countries?
Definitely, and having that global presence, again, with meaningful, quality brands, legacy IP, and all of that good stuff.
I hope you can comment a little bit more on that because that sounds very interesting. Why don't we go to Hiro?
Hi, I'm Jiro.
Jiro,
Good to see you.
excuse me.
Yeah, people call me many names, but
I think Hiro's kind of a cool
yeah.
name as well.
Is it? So yeah, I'm the original Xumo co-founder of the FAST business 10 years ago. And right now, just to go quickly to the Xumo, it's an interesting company. We're a joint venture between Comcast and Charter. And we have three parts of business. One is our TV OS and Streambox business. And number two is our FAST B2C. We call it Xumo Play. And then third is our FAST B2B, which we call Xumo Enterprise. And all in all those three businesses, our primary focus right now for the goal is to get more audience reach and scale across all those three business units. And we're doing pretty good on the Streambox side, leveraging our cable operator sales channels and also TV OS through our retailers. And Xumo Play, we put the Xumo Play first front and center of those home UI in the living room experience to get more growth. And the last one is the enterprise. It's a very unique that we connect many partners' channels to the FAST platform, thousands of channels. And one of the opportunities that we see recently is the channels integrated into the pay TV side. So virtual MVPDs and MVPDs start carrying more FAST channels to give more content choice to the consumer. So yeah, we're pretty excited to see that growth.
So is that something you've started doing quite recently, bringing those fast channels into pay TV as well?
The first one was with our parent company, Xfinity, is 18 months ago. I think it's about 2 years ago that we started to provide channels into those legacy or traditional cable subscribers channels. And then from there, we started to deploy more to Cox and Rogers and others.
Because I know this is a strong strategy of places like Fubo. Fubo's definitely reusing a lot, as is Philo.
Yes, we also support those channels.
Oh, you
the
do?
Partners too. We connect channels to those
Very good.
partners too.
Cameron, you want to introduce yourself and take a swing at the question?
Yes, hello, excuse me, Cameron Douglas with Fandango. I head up our video businesses primarily under the Fandango at Home banner. And I know, Colin, you asked us not to sell our platform and how we operate in this space, but we're kind of the opposite of Jiro right now because we're being spun off from Comcast into a new company called Versant, which is set up to be a modern media holding company with iconic brands. On day one, we'll already have established leadership positions in 4 basic verticals. One is political news and opinion, which used to be MSNBC, is now MS Now, which is our first rebrand. Business news and personal finance under CNBC. Golf and athletics participation, which is all of our golf brands and our sports and recreation businesses. And what's interesting to most of you here is our sports and genre entertainment. So that's USA, E, Sci-Fi, Rotten Tomatoes, Oxygen, and Fandango. And I'd say under Fandango and Fandango at Home, the thing that we're looking at the most in 2025 that's changed is really the interplay between Fandango and our historically core ticketing business and Fandango at Home operating 2 separate businesses within Fandango at Home. Transactional VOD, which is a stable, flat to slightly growing business, and our AVOD business, and seeing how those audiences and customers interact with each other across those 3 things, ticketing, AVOD, and TVOD.
You know, we had a moment during the pandemic when I thought that we would see much more activity in TVOD. We were using PVOD, right? Premium VOD at that time. It seemed to have cooled. I think TVOD is an underused opportunity for monetization.
I mean, particularly in that 2020 era, it was huge. That was really the growth of 2 things at the same time. It was the growth of, or the introduction of PVOD, premium video on demand, to consumers, because theatrical basically didn't exist for a while there. But also SVOD. We sort of forget that that's where SVOD started, right? You had Netflix already in the market, but basically everyone else launched around that time because the studios themselves didn't have a distribution vehicle, and so SVOD grew. So actually, yeah, it was the heyday of streaming, and basically got everyone into streaming after Netflix had done it, since 2017 or whatever year that was. 2009, I guess.
Indeed. Scott, last but not least.
Thank you. Scott Alexander, I'm the general manager of ViewNexa. We're a streaming media platform that works with businesses and media companies. We do streaming video, fast channel distribution, and we build connected TV and mobile applications. So specifically within 2025, we've been taking our customers and moving them into multi-point monetization strategies. So thank you, Laura, for setting that up perfectly. We're trying to get a lot of companies to move from one monetization strategy into two. If we can get them to 4, I'll be even happier. But we support transaction and subscription and advertising and all of these different ways to monetize. And we've traditionally had customers that have been focused on just one strategy. And we've really pushed this year to get people that were mainly subscription focused into doing, say, transaction-supported events, which is a big thing for us. It's not completely dead. But also partnering on a linear streaming distribution strategy. So then they're layering ad-supported revenue for a traditionally subscription-supported business. So we've seen a huge push into that. You know, we've seen the hybrid tiers that have come out of the tier 1, you know, Netflixes and Amazons that are now pay. You know, there's a multi-point subscription model. One is no ads and one is a hybrid. And so we're taking that down to more niche level content creators, and it's working quite well.
Yeah, I'm constantly amazed that there are so many just 1 or 2 models. When I was modeling this business to figure out how a TV channel might make as much money in streaming, I couldn't do it with 1 or 2. I had to have at least 3 models for them to get to that sort of same type of revenue that they were earning through traditional pay TV. So it's good to hear that you're pushing people in that direction, and hopefully they're listening to you. Let's talk about optimizing content monetization. So I want to start first with you, Jiro, and Paige on this. Do you get enough information to program your channels?
Yes, no. I think it's some of the trends that everybody's hearing. It feels like being a dead horse to say that we're not getting everything we wish we could get from some of our partners. Some of that, unfortunately, is kind of gate-kept, which is really tough because how can we super serve your platform if we don't know what's working well on that, which is a similar trend that you might also see in the advertising space, right, where some of that first-party data is just siloed, so it makes it very challenging to feed that back. So we do the best we can, but I'm always an advocate for please give me as much data as humanly possible so that we can make more informed decisions about what we're programming, when, and for what platform, because what works somewhere may not work as well in other places.
Kyle?
Yeah, I think the fragmentation of platforms and not allowing uniform normalized data across every platform to create this insight that travels for programmers to help iterate on channel programming is a disservice for platforms too, because why would you gatekeep something that allows a channel programmer to help increase watch time, increase the audiences on the platform those channels are on? I came from large media conglomerates, Warner and Nickelodeon. I completely know the level of first-party data that's available, and switching over to Fremantle, where again it's a little bit more challenged. There's just so much gaps, and we have been really creative with trying to create proxies and comps and leveraging AI to get insights that help us drive proper decision making for programming and not just for advertising as well.
I agree. Jiro, talk to us a little bit about the information that you're feeding back through your platforms to those partners and how you see them leveraging it.
We actually do. Yeah,
Jiro provides.
We love the partnership. It really matters to us. And our job as a platform is to connect the channels to the right audience through our personalization and machine learning. But on the other hand, we need programmers and partners to do a better job and improve their programming experience. So we do share the asset level, program level, channel level, real-time data, day part, week part data today. And also what we're planning in the future, near future, is also augment the audience insight. So including demographics, psychographic information for the partner to better understand their audience and also use that for monetization purpose. So we actually are the opposite with others, that we're being very transparent, and I hope we are. But yeah, we're going to continue that way.
We have channels on Jiro's platform, so we're pretty happy with that. But everyone else, I know you.
So Jiro,
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
Cameron.
yeah, Paige knows, Shout we're already sharing data with, and I think we do a pretty good job with that. We're primarily VOD, so we don't have that day parting type of data that's required when you're really running an EPG in a linear channel. And we're just getting into business with Fremantle. So you will find eventually that, yes, I think Fandango is pretty liberal about how we share data and share in success and performance.
Very good. Scott, a couple of other things I was interested in talking about here in optimizing content monetization. That's balancing linear and on-demand distribution and also selecting platforms for content distribution. How are you helping your customers?
Yeah, you kind of set it up at the beginning of the panel, which is the answer is everywhere, and that's a very common answer that we hear as well. And while that might be the end strategy, there's certainly a more intentional way that you can go about even just what channels do you want to go after first. So, from an open exchange standpoint, you're going to see higher monetization rates out of a Roku or a Fire TV if you're launching your own application just because they continue to support a device advertising ID, where Apple TV, as an example, has put that behind a gate. So there's lots of small strategies in that way that are difficult for a company that size. We work with a lot of broadcast companies that are moving into or relaunching their digital strategy, or digital native companies that are building something from the ground up, and it's very difficult looking at the complexity of the ecosystem to try to figure out where to go. So one of the things that we do, besides offer the technology, is say, hey, this is what we're seeing elsewhere in the industry, you should be here, here, and here. So until you go out there and try it, it's kind of hard. So talk with operators, strategists, other companies that are non-competitive, and figure out what are they doing in the industry that's working, and see if you can gain some insights so that you're not just going to every single location all at the same time. But eventually you do want to have a very large set of distribution set. We work with KSL TV out of Salt Lake, and they used to have one partnership to reach all of their audience, which was a multi-point distribution they would broadcast over TV. Right. Now they're on 13 operating systems written in 9 different languages. They have 35 fast distribution partners. Like, the same amount of partnerships required just to reach everybody in Salt Lake is significantly more complex than it used to be. So navigating all that, it's if it feels really difficult and complicated, it's not just you. That's unfortunately the state of the industry at the moment.
So that does beg the question, how do you pick a platform that you're going to distribute on? So maybe we'll start here with Colin Page. Kyle, how do you figure it out?
Yeah, I think initially we just identified, as I mentioned earlier, that our initial premise was increasing our distribution footprint, and that was all about getting on every major platform we could think of, and we were able to leverage our brand and our IP to get onto those major platforms. However, we understand that there are some niche audiences that thrive on smaller platforms, and it comes to a decision-making process of understanding your cost against ROI. How much is it a play out per month versus the amount of people actually watching the channel, and are there any comps we can create to make that ROI palatable for people, especially our leadership audience, our senior leadership. So now we've gotten to a point where we've make 80% of our revenue on like 5 to 7 top channels, because a lot of those major platforms really drive the bulk of our revenue.
And Paige, talk to us particularly about the fasts, how you're optimizing your interaction with those. Are you just going for all of them? Are you picking and choosing?
It's funny, when you start, I'm like, I feel like there was a time that was like the MO of like, we have to get everywhere, you have to get in the gate because it's so important. And I think now, especially with the combined library we have to offer, we can be a bit more selective, we can offer to do that. And going global, I think, is really important, but there are still some areas that are working on improving the monetization. So the viewership might be great, but the monetization isn't quite there. So we still have to make those informed decisions, to your point about what makes sense, where do we think that there's an opportunity to also scale in that regard.
Yeah, FilmRise, I felt like was and still is pretty much everywhere. All of the platforms that I see, I'm usually able to find my FilmRise Western channel. To keep
Are you watching? Are you sitting through an ad break?
No choice, really, is there? So great. I notice time is moving along, so I want to do a quick fire round to maximize the value obtained by our audience from your good thoughts. Let's do a quick fire. Name one thing you know now that you wish you had known when you first got started streaming. 20 seconds. The giant hook will come and yank you off stage if you go over. Why don't we start with you, Scott?
I would
18, 17.
Yeah, no pressure. I would say the complexity required on the FAST integration side it requires much more technology required to get to every single endpoint than I ever thought would be possible. Almost every single FAST platform has its own specification, and I never thought that would be the case, but it is.
Not surprising, I suppose, really. Cameron?
This won't be an epiphany to anyone in the room, but I suppose that the thing I learned is it's really hard to make money in AVOD and FAST. When you sell or rent something, there's a wholesale price, and you make that money, and you share it with a couple of people, and it's pretty predictable. There are so many factors in AVOD and FAST and monetization and advertising that, even with 50, 80, 100 years of advertising in the industry, it's upended in the last 5 years, and it continues to be difficult.
Yeah.
And it's why a lot of people are still not profitable in the space at scale.
Jiro?
Thinking about that, but when I started the FAST business 10 years ago, my original assumption was the dollar and money will follow the viewers and engagement. In a sense, we did try hard to build the engagement, and that's how we grow the FAST business. But in reality, if you look from the advertiser standpoint, if you want to shift your budget from the existing budget to a new opportunity, it has to be an incremental audience, and it has to be a better ROI. So I will slightly correct my original assumption that the dollar will follow where there's an incremental audience, and it is targetable and it's measurable. That's how I will change.
Very good. Kyle?
I would put strict data requirements and non-negotiable clauses in contracts moving forward.
That sounds like it was earned through bitter experience. Paige?
Oh, that was quick. I'd say don't stay comfortable. I think you have to be ready to be really nimble, because things that may have worked like years ago are not working the same way they might now, and partners are constantly changing their requirements, needs, and what they want to fill their platforms out.
And let's stay with that sort of theme and talk about FAST specifically. How is monetization going with FASTs, Paige?
It's going. I think it's challenged in the sense that there is some compression in the ads. I think everybody kind of knows that, but we're still seeing viewership rise. So we're pushing it, and we're fighting the good fight. And I think bringing that quality content to the market is really going to make the difference. And we like to set ourselves apart with really unique streams and things that make our feeds really different. So whether it's live events or involving talent at a really close level, we have great relationships with our licensors. Really helps us set ourselves apart and be more enticing to advertisers.
Yep, and Carl?
With the flooding of platforms and channels, everyone knows the ad market's getting really squeezed out there. So there's even more reason for us to strengthen up our position as strong channels that people go back to, whether it's a brand channel or a genre channel or a name brand IP, giving a reason for viewers to reach out and find film-rise westerns or Baywatch or Price is Right and make that a habit of our day is really what we're focused on now because of the challenging market.
Yeah, very good. I originally didn't think I was going to ask this question, but I'm going to ask you about AI. It is a theme that we've seen running through the conference both this morning and this afternoon. And I wanted to ask you more specifically how you're using it today, how it's impacting your business, either, well, hopefully positively, otherwise you wouldn't be using it. So who wants to opine first on this question of AI? Cameron?
I can start, yeah. We're trying to maximize both consumer and enterprise AI tools wherever possible. I think some people are way ahead of us, some people are way behind us, but for example, here's a really mundane example that my programming team uses. Using OpenAI, right? Let's say we have 500 TV series, and we've acquired those through various means. Okay, categorize those into 10 different groups. so I can program them on my storefront. I could have someone literally sit there and look at 500 titles of things and figure that out on their own. ChatGPT is going to be a really good start for that. And that gets you a basis of programming that you can then riff off of.
So I'm wondering, Scott and Jiro, if you're using it in the back end. Let's start with you, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with a lot of local news organizations, and there's a lot of sensitivity about feeding those into models. So one of the things we've been really careful and diligent about is using open source models on isolated infrastructure. Said in easier to understand terms, it doesn't feed into OpenAI and ChatGPT, but we've implemented LLMs to do things like auto title, auto description, even tagging, and then something that's a really menial task like adding an IAB targeting category against every single piece of content that's uploaded. It's something that an editor certainly doesn't want to take the time to do because we ingest 400 hours of content every single day. But doing it in an automated fashion, you know, the revenue upside is there on the other side. The person who's the editor would never see that.
Yeah.
But it's an easy implementation of an LLM that has a real revenue impact and also, you know, makes it faster and cheaper to operate the business day to day. That's the whole goal, as Laura pointed out again.
Indeed. Jiro?
Yeah, well, two parts on AI that we use today. One is, like we are on the enterprise business, we're connecting so many channels to global international markets. So there's growing OpEx and CapEx to maintain those channels. So there's a lot of workflow optimization using AI. That's like no-brainer, we're doing that. Number two is on the ad experience side, that a lot of the companies, I think, we're looking carefully at the content metadata, content viewership, but also not really about the ad viewership. That's the area that we're investing a lot to make it, for example, doing more dynamic ad load insertion depending on the user type to change the ad length, timing of it. Those are things that we're trying to optimize using AI.
Very good. So we're almost out of time. So I want to do one last quick fire question to see us out. That question is, what opportunities in streaming TV do you see in the next couple of years? Why don't we start with you on this page?
Okay, I'm going to go with engagement and interactivity. I think live is going to be a really big component for FAST. We've done some of it in the past with like Mystery Science Theater 3000, the Turkey Day Marathon. It's coming up next month. We've also done some special events with folks from like Power Rangers to talk about Super Sentai, and I think you're going to see more and more demand from that, especially from an advertising perspective, because it adds more value to your channel, sets you apart.
Kyle?
I kind of want to cheat a little and go back to the AI to tie back into this question, is because we're using AI now to unearth and upscale catalog that allows people to thrive in the niches and allows AI for my teams to really upscale their force multiplier capabilities. I have small teams that with AI, have allowed us to function like a larger data team. We're able to do crazier data science capabilities on a small fraction. And same with content, where AI has allowed us to localize and normalize data at much cheaper, fast, palatable revenue incomes.
Very good. Jiro?
Optimizing the content discovery in the living room. I think there's a lot to do. There's still fragmented on how users find the content. So we, as an OS company, we're trying to make it more a content first rather than app first to let user find it easier. And I think the AI will also take a critical role to optimize that experience.
That really resonates with me, particularly in the linear guides. I really struggle. I was looking for America's Test Kitchen's country gourmet thing. I forget what it's called. Country. I was looking for this channel, couldn't find it anywhere. I had another reason. It wasn't for me. It was for somebody else. Cameron.
Could think of 3 or 4. Live. Better audience development. But the biggest one for me would be personalization, number 3. It's a version of what you just said. And number 4 would be EPG optimization. And what really is the next EPG? Right? That's the thing that got people into it because it was comfortable and familiar to a 50-year-old that was used to cable. But what's the next version of that? I don't think we've figured that out yet as an industry, or as an individual platform for that matter.
You know, I think I've been talking about the inadequacies of the linear guide for my
that was for you, Colin.
entire career. Goodness. And you have the last word, Scott.
I will expand on that and call it hyper-personalization, just to distinguish it a little bit. But as we look at generative AI and what we can do for curating even just the discovery page as an example, a place where personalization can go much, much farther than I think we've gone today. I think we'll see that leaps and bounds from where we're at now on October 25.
Very good, and I think we're just about done. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're done.
Thank you.